Everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily Show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily Show. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and today's guest is joining us from dead smack middle of Canada, Winnipeg, Canada, to be exact. He is a devoted dad, an entrepreneur in fitness, construction, and life coaching, a public speaker, protector and provider, and a rescuer of masculinity. Everybody welcome Shaun Zimmer to the show. Welcome.
Hey, Emily, thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm excited to get into just everything that's been happening and transpiring over the course of, the last year and a half, almost 2 years now in Canada. I want to take it back to a post that you made on June 9th, 2020. It was a boot camp photo, and it was one of the first photos that you had posted like that. And in that it said, "One has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws." Tell me a little bit about what was happening during that time and what were the laws, mandates, and things that were implemented in Canada that you felt were unjust.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's almost been 2 years that we've been going on with this, whatever you want to call it. That's a tough one to label on that, or sometimes not. When everything first happened with COVID, it didn't change a thing for me. I was a very isolated individual, and I had moved most of my business online. I moved off of the tools with my construction company and different things that I was out and about with. So when it happened, it didn't really change a thing for me. And I looked at it like, are we serious right now? I don't think anybody's going to into this survival of the fittest. You can't shut the world down. Things will go on. And then fast forward a few months, and I realized people were following what was being said, and people were plugging into mainstream news and really getting brainwashed by what they were telling them. And then they rolled out further restrictions here where they said you couldn't gather with more than one person outside your household. And that was where I said, enough's enough. I have to do something, whether I get a storefront or do something just to be a light in this city. As you said, we're dead smack in the middle of Canada. So I have a property that's on one of the busiest streets in Winnipeg, about a 150 to 200 foot frontage on it. So I said, all right, you know what we'll do? I'll open up a boot camp. I used to be in the fitness space for many, many years. I still dabble in it a little bit. So I'll open up a boot camp free of charge. I made a post on May 1st. I can't remember what date exactly, and said exactly that. Hey, come on down. We don't judge here. There's no restrictions, and we will hold the line. And I started that, 4 days a week. I offered classes, and that grew and grew. Started doing things for, the kids. The junior Patriots boot camp now we do. Then, fast forward many months down the road, now we have Patriots Academy, developing a school system for kids. I've had plenty of visits from officers, handing me tickets over the fence, lots of intimidation tactics, been arrested a few times. Very luckily fortunate I've been developed for this kind of position with my history as a little bit of a rough, more than a rough kid growing up. So I had some tough skin to deal with it, and I've been able to hold this line here and moving forward. So that's exactly it. One of the biggest things I've focused on with that is being a light, showing, hey, you can stand up to this. We need you, what you allow, you enable. And as well, providing a space of safety for individuals. As I'm sure you're aware, one of the biggest things at the beginning of the pandemic and transpiring throughout the following months was individuals who were being attacked by their peers, by their family, by their workplace for having a view that is opposite of what is shown to be the popular view, the narrative that's being pushed. And they feel like they can't even speak, can't be themselves. So I wanted to provide a place of safety for people to come in and be themselves and be a bold individual, regardless of the crowd, be able to speak their mind and not feel like an outcast with doing so. And that has created something beautiful here. It's been a struggle. It's, we're up to almost 1,000 people here that come through this house every week.
1,000?
We do bi-weekly fires now, parties of all sorts. We put on dance lessons. whatever I can do to get people together, and especially directed towards the kids. And that's opened up a beautiful thing where now I have the kids here once a week and right away once every day where, I teach them about being a patriot, just as our mutual friend shirt on right now, being a patriot, and not even for your country, but and really the whole planet, and standing up for those next to you. Look at that child next to you at boot camp right now, standing up for them when you're at school and something is being done that's not right or anywhere. And also winning and losing, no participation awards here. Really trying to undo what's been put on the last decade. As we know, this has been an attack for quite some time. So that's really it in a nutshell on what led up to that picture there. And, there's so many things in between it's been a wild roller coaster, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I just have to say thank you for being such a strong leader in your community and taking action. There's a lot of people that are, speaking about what's going on, but you have just really tangibly created change by taking action, bringing people together, and pouring into the next generation, which I think is so incredibly valuable. So Junior Patriots, let's go into that because there's so many things you just touched on. I want to get into all of it, but Junior Patriots. So tell me about how that started. And you told me a little bit about, what you're teaching them, but I want to know, what is the parents' response in this, and what are the parents feeling with their child being a part of this? And, just kind of tell me the impact in the family that this is having even.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said, there's a lot of people talking about it, but not a lot of people doing anything. And a rule I pulled from one of my mentors, Ed Milet, the 90-10 rule, and I live by it. I speak about it often. 10% of our time and energy focused on a problem, meaning we identify the problem, and then 90% of our time and energy focused on solutions. A lot of us as people get that backwards. It becomes habit. We're lucky if we identify a solution, and then we just talk about problems, right? How's your day? This or that. Just talk about problems. We tell the universe we want more problems. We focus on problems growing. So I really focus on the solutions, right? We're talking on social media all damn day and talking about how wrong everything is unless you're doing something. I think he is one of the biggest things for that. United we stand, divided we fall. And that is where Junior Patriots came from. As I did the 4 days a week on boot camps, we had some other leaders come out that were inspired, some different martial art coaches, some yoga coaches. So I started Muay Thai class, yoga class, brought other coaches in, gave them a spot to lift them up. God gave me a voice to share, but as well, he gave me strength and power to help others share their voice. So that then transpired further to Junior Patriots. I started a boot camp for kids, all ages welcome, in the backyard here every Thursday. And like I said, right away, I'm opening up this home and another one coming soon to do classes every day. And Junior Patriots is an area, they come in the backyard here and I put them through some work. I teach them that we work hard and we play hard. Often I'll set up different stations of exercise, and then in between we have some sports where they'll get to enjoy it a little bit more, and then a harder station that they get to enjoy. I do it old school. We'll play dodgeball sometimes. I found out they don't play dodgeball in school anymore. I feel like that's a prerequisite to get hit in the face with dodgeball.
Absolutely. You got to have that humbling moment of that sting on your face.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Builds character.
Humbling moments. And that's one thing too, humbling moments in all fronts with women, men, children being in the lines with, for me as a man, with other men who can help me be competitive and humble me as well with different things, as well as women and children as well. So I have them come out, and even with dodgeball, or anything we're doing, sometimes I'll have them, let's say, do a bunch of burpees, do burpees until I just stop, and I'll watch them and see who's executing best form as I've taught them. Then I'll pick a few leaders, and now, okay, get up on the fence, everybody. These two team leaders are going to pick teams. There's a first pick and there's a last pick. Some people don't like that, but that's how the world works.
Absolutely. I have to stop you right there. When I was a kid, we lived in a cul-de-sac. And so in that cul-de-sac, we would play all the sports. And there was one time where we were playing, I forgot what it was, either like soccer, like ice or hockey or something. And I got picked last because I was the only girl. And I was so pissed that I played so hard that literally they chose teams next and I was picked first. Second to my brother, to be honest. My brother's a little better than I was, but it built character and it built that fight. And I'm glad that I got picked last for being a girl, because then it gave me this fight that I was like, let me prove all of you guys wrong.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I've seen that progression in the children coming here in the last few months. I'll often, dodgeball winners, I'll pull out. We have a donation box here. Like I said, everything's free, but if the parents want to put in a donation, I'll open that box out. I'll empty the money out. Okay, we got winners for dodgeball this round. Here's $20. I'll put up questions. What's the biggest muscle in your body? Gluteus maximus. All right, here's $20. And you'll get kids that get really upset. Well, I didn't get anything. I'm like, well, you learn and come back stronger next time and hit it harder. And then if you don't win, you're going to learn from it. And I always start the conversation with that before class. We start with our national anthem. That's something that I feel is important. And remembering, a lot of their parents have immigrated to this country for a reason. So speaking on that, in terms of, again, what a patriot is, I actually have one of Ian's flags hanging above the shed. So point at it. Yeah, there's a great video actually on the my Instagram page that we did. We had a videographer come down, and it was such a beautiful thing, seeing all the kids standing in silence and respect, some of them singing to the national anthem. And then, what's a patriot? And like I said, look to the kid left or right, and then go into winning and losing. And as well, when you're going to leave here, what is a loss? Why are we here? And almost every one of them knows now we're here to become our best. Take our God-given passions and talents and develop them and become our best, and then help other people become their best and take on new challenges moving forward. And through the months, it's wild. We did a static squat challenge last week, and these two kids hit over 5 minutes on a static fence squat. I was quite surprised. These are like 8-year-old kids. It was pretty impressive. And the winner, I gave him, I think he took $20, and I gave second place $10. I wasn't planning on giving second place, but I'm like, you did so great. Here it is. And the winner went and gave half his money to the second place because he was so impressed. And this was actually one of the guys that gives me the most attitude, but at the same time, he's the most respectful. He reminds me of myself, actually, when I was a kid. Funny. I was a little shithead, but I still had pretty big respect for my elders. So in different ways. Yeah.
So you were quite the leader in your community, obviously, but I'm curious a little bit about your background and how you developed yourself into this leader, because now it's beautiful. You're pouring into other people and children and adults and everyone in between. But how did you get here, and how did you build the leadership qualities that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I was writing a book on that I hope to have finished, but I put all my business and my book writing, everything off this summer to see what we're doing here. As I said, I went from being very isolated to having almost 1,000 people through here every week. So that's been quite the change.
Wow,
from
I can only imagine.
0 people over to your house to 1,000.
Wow.
When I was a young teen, I was growing up in Ottawa, country town, a little small country town. I was in the capital of Canada. And I was a real troubled youth. I grew up with the wrong people, hated the fact that my dad left. And I got into Grand Theft Auto at a young age, fighting, drug dealing, left, right, and center. And I finally was on the run for quite a few months and got arrested. And I got a lucky break, which, I was never a man of God until August 18th of last year. And I know this was a hand he brought in, giving me a second chance. My dad had moved to Winnipeg, where I am now, a couple years prior. I hadn't seen him for a few years. And the detective that took my case, he took me out for breakfast. I showed him some ditch vehicles here and there, some different stuff he could collect. And he gave me an option. He's like, all right, there's your dad over there. He pointed over at steps we pulled up to. He's like, he's got a plane ticket for you to move in the next 48 hours to Manitoba, province over. Quite far, almost, halfway through the country. And you move. This is we're starting over. Second chance. You stay here, you're facing 5 to 8, and you're so close to being an adult. They'll try to make an example of you, and you might go through trying as an adult. So here I am. I moved within 48 hours.
Wow.
Didn't smarten up, unfortunately. Got in trouble when I got here. Spent a short bit of time behind bars after got in too many fights. And after that, I started smartening up. I realized that's not the life I want. And at 18 years old, I started a construction business, a landscape construction business for, brickwork, outdoor kitchens, driveways, that kind of stuff. And ran that for over a decade. One-man show, started on my bicycle, built it up to being an award-winning company, the best landscape contractor in the entire province.
That's incredible.
And, did quite well with it, minus building company culture. That's something that I've been looking at in my mentor, Andy Frisilla, and you guys at first the last couple of years. That's the later part of this conversation that's developed me to be able to facilitate what I'm doing now.
Awesome.
It it was the Shaun 5 years ago, I probably would have failed miserably at what I'm doing right now. So, but in that process, I got into, my dad was he's a natural bodybuilder. I got into training with him. I never did bodybuilding, but got into training with him, started doing camps, one-on-one training. And then over the years, being terrible at building company culture, I had new staff in my landscaping company, and I wasn't making any money doing that because I had such high standards of quality. And I became a real asshole, really big asshole. I was getting aggressive. I wasn't happy. I was drinking quite a bit, smoking 2 packs a day. And I had my daughter in 2013. And then I really realized this wasn't the life I wanted. I had no time with her. I would start my day at 5 a.m., load the truck, get all the tools in there, head to the job site, work 10 to 12 hours on the tools with the guys, and then go drive all around the city, do 2 to 3 estimates, look at the yards, measure them up, show products, go home, say hi to my kid quick, say hi to her mom who hated me because I was such an a-hole and never around, and jump on the computer and do, emails and designs till 1 a.m. and get 4 hours of sleep and start it all over.
Wow.
So after a decade of that, I said enough's enough. And I went ahead and took a position with the railroad, disappear work, anger issues. And that, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry, that an incoming call.
Yeah, right.
And the working on the railroad, I went in the wilderness, and that was great. It really helped. But then I realized I lost a fire inside as an entrepreneur. That was really where my heart was set, and being around people despite not liking them very much.
It's funny how that works. You want to be around the right people.
Yeah. So then I got in a little bit more trouble, and I lost my driver's license, which that right there was the first steps. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the first big step of me further down the road acknowledging that the universe has a plan for you. And the longer you resist and follow the voice in your head, if it's the wrong path, eventually the universe is going to kick your ass and shove you over to the right way to go. And that's what that was. That was one of the biggest kicks to transition. So here I was, couldn't go work 8 hours away anymore up north. I needed to do something. Couldn't run my construction company very easily considering I had all new staff and I needed drivers and all this stuff. So I got into online training with my fitness training. I've been a fitness trainer now for almost a decade in the winter time and around my landscaping when I wasn't so busy. So I went in the online space, which I quickly hated. Didn't take long until I really disliked it.
Why? Why was that?
You know what? I had, actually, to back up a little bit, before I got online, I was a anti-social media guy. Didn't want it. Had
I feel like I could see that.
Back in Ottawa, that was enough. People, I need to go on Instagram. I'm like, I don't need that shit. Y'all are losers. That's who I was. I was just a big asshole, grump. Wasn't very open to different perspectives until I finally chased some woman and jumped on Instagram. I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
Right. Usually how it happens.
Yeah. And then there was a time, I guess this was right before I lost my license. Yeah, I went out for a hunt with my daughter. And we went outside, and Jimmy had a flat on it before we were taking off. And she was all excited to change the tire. So as a dad, I was really excited. So I set up my phone on video and just put it on top of a jerry can that I set up as kind of a pylon and recorded us changing the tire. I'll never forget that day. One of the best memories I have. And I took a screenshot of that recording, and I put it up on Instagram. And not too long after, somebody, I still don't know who this day, took that photo and made a meme out of it. And it went viral all over. Like it was all over news channels, Larry Kessler Show, all over the place. And then I saw a space for this. The amount of feedback I got from parents of all sorts, moms and dads, seeing a more masculine man get down on that level with a little girl, it made an impact, a lot more than I thought. A simple picture of a dad changing a tire with his girl would. So I saw a space for that, and I started making these memes. And we had about 4 other go viral, and it started building up a social media presence. So that is where I decided, okay, I'll utilize this and monetize off of it to get clientele for online training. Yeah. And to answer your question now, in terms of why I didn't like it, I had a lot of people hire me just because they wanted to talk to me, or, would hire me with, in the fitness space, you get so many people who have good wishes, but don't execute. So they would give me money and just not show up. Yeah. And I remember the first time it happened, somebody handed me almost $5,000 and never showed up. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then a couple of days later, I'm like, no, it's not. That I feel really empty. And I had a lot of that. So I really was trying to move away from that. And then in the terms, I finally got into a company with some supplements, and was pushing those to different people who were coming to me online. And in terms of being good at sales or developing a better salesmanship, I was building rapport with people who were coming to me. I wasn't even talking about business. I'm like, all right, let's have a little bit of small talk, build some rapport. And in that process, I discovered people were having a really hard time in life, really hard time. And I'm a huge self-development junkie. I read a ton. I have a lot of mentors. I plug in a podcast nonstop. I really like developing my mind, digging in my conscious and unraveling the past and whatnot. So I started helping people. Be like, well, I'm not going to talk to them about a product. I'll give them this analogy I pulled from this book or whatever it might be. And that started feeding a fire inside my heart.
That's where you felt fulfillment.
Yeah. Seeing that impact I was making. And of course, it turned out to create income because people trusted me and they came to me. And that's what really transpired into me being a life coach in ways, fucking that word, but helping people, whether it might be with past trauma, whether it's with their fitness, whether it's with their business, their relationships might be. I started developing programs, many around addictions, as I've done very well at, figuring out how our programming works in the mind to help people, quit smoking within a few days or alcohol, whatever they might be hooked on. And here I am now in the process a year and a half ago of having all these beta programs off, just kind of getting into the mix of this, looking at things that I did with the beta launch for the first year, just to kind of take what worked, what didn't, and just about to create all the new programs with my man, Brad Lee with Lightspeed. And then this happened, and where we started the conversation at. And that is where I said, okay, pushing everything off, I need to help people. Universe. I came across a book a year ago by Michael A. Singer. He wrote a really popular book, The Untethered Soul. Yeah. He's got a secondary book called The Surrender Experiment, which is his story. I highly suggest checking it out.
Okay.
That really spoke to me in just terms of letting go of the voice inside your head based on this reality we're living in, on what you want. Not meaning let go of everything you want, but whatever the universe presents you, take it and do your damn best with it. And I started doing it. And it has led me to some beautiful things right now. And it's bringing me right back to my passions of being an outdoorsman. I'm taking kids out for hikes. We're going to be doing harvesting with animals right away, different classes, and all these things. So, yeah, a lot of information, a little one, but that's, kind of what's developed me. And again, a lot of past history with the law, a lot of past history with bullies, being a bully, dealing with a lot of bullshit, being in criminal organizations as I was younger. I remember there's a whole book about it. I skipped quite a bit, but I developed this tough skin where, I have 15 officers over my fence telling me I can't have people over my yard. And that's helped me be like, well, fuck off. Got a warrant? No, go fuck off. Well, we're going to write tickets. Well, you better get busy writing, boys, like with all due respect, but fuck off.
Absolutely. I think, I think it's interesting because I really do believe that everything that we go through it's molding us and developing us into who we were always meant to be. So even when you look back and say, I was going down a bad road, that bad road actually probably built some of that tough skin that allows you to look at an officer because you're pretty comfortable with them at this point, right? And to be able to say, no, I'm standing my ground, right? So it's interesting because, everything we go through really does prepare us for where we're going next. And I want to reiterate what you just said, because I think it's such an important life lesson, is to recognize when the universe is giving you something and to be willing to accept and to receive it. I definitely identify with, having big goals and dreams and kind of tunnel vision going after that thing. And it's like sometimes when you're going down that road, you don't realize that the universe is trying to take you a different route or trying to reroute you or trying to take you a different way. And if you are in resistance to that, you'll miss out on all these beautiful opportunities that are right in front of you. So I think it's such an important lesson, like you said, just to be open and recognize where that shift happens. 2020, it made us all shift. And I think the people that were able to come out on top are the people that were able to recognize what was going on and make a quick shift, whether that was in their business, in their family, in their, whatever it was. And that shift and being able to pivot like that, I think is such an important tool to have. of, because no one would have ever expected this entire situation to occur. And none of us, I don't think any of us thought that it would go this far, which is why I think it's even more important that people like yourself are standing up and speaking out and building community, because the hope is, and our goal is, right, that these things stop and we're able to fight these mandates and they stop here. But the truth is, we didn't even think that we would be here in the first place. So we always have to think about where this could possibly go and if we want it to get there or not. I feel like you're leading this whole like revolt in Canada, and it's really incredible to see. I know a lot of my, friends and peers and people that I'm connected with, where you always come up in conversation, or like I'll look on your post and I see them commenting and liking, like you have the most support from all of us here in the US. So it's just really cool to see. We're all like your biggest cheerleaders for sure.
Yeah, definitely the First Form family has been a huge supporter for sure.
Yeah, tell me about your connection with them.
So many in the U.S. And, one of the biggest things you mentioned there is recognizing that resistance. One of the biggest messages I've been getting the last year is let go. And you hear, I was just having a conversation with a friend this morning about that. And he was talking, we were having the same conversation. He was talking about, you get all these Instagram gurus who say that, let go. And people, have these coaches and they're like, what does that mean? What do they take from that? And let go. It's when you have so much resistance and there's a path being shown, take that, intuitively listen to yourself. And that's why I'm so big on gratitude exercise. And they've been becoming very popular the last few years, which I love to see. And I think there's a big part of gratitude, expressing what you're grateful for every day that a lot of people miss. One thing a lot of people know is I'm speaking what I'm grateful for. I'm bringing more of that into my life. Yes, focusing on that. Secondly, what it does though, I find when you wake up in the morning, I'm always grateful. I took this from my mentor, Brad Lee, and I have a sign in my bedroom that says, congratulations, you got to wake up.
Yeah.
And that's why, when you asked me before we got on the call, how my day is the best damn day of my life. I'm here, I'm alive. I have all the memories from yesterday and all the hard lessons from yesterday that I learned. And I tell you, I've had a lot of hard lessons to the point where now when I'm faced with shit, I get excited.
Wow.
Hard as it brings me down to my knees. I'm still excited because I know it is the road that is made for me. And recognizing that resistance and letting go in terms of following that little voice, your intuition, your other self, your connection to God, the universe, whatever you want to label it as. And when you do gratitude, wake up in the morning, I'm grateful for waking up, I have a roof over my head, a chair to sit on, whatever it is, what that does is you're totally present in that moment, even if it's only for 10 seconds. And you're not thinking about the bills, all the bullshit, whatever it might be, the issues with your co-parenting, all the noise that gets in the way of us hearing that little voice inside that a lot of us have told to shut the fuck up so many times.
True.
It's pretty quiet. And we need to raise its volume, raise its confidence. And we know confidence is built from actions and the memory of winning. So allowing it to come in and we listen to it and it takes us to a win. Oh, I'm going to listen to that little bugger a lot more, right? And empower it more.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I think sometimes we think of, the universe leading us in a different direction as like this beautiful wide open door, but sometimes it actually looks like the form of a closed door. So some people are feeling like their world is crumbling down because they got a door slammed in their face of a relationship or a business opportunity or an interview or whatever it was. And they feel like their world is coming down. The universe is giving you the most clear direction that you've ever had. It's a hard no, or in some cases, it could be a hard not yet right now. Maybe you don't have what it takes inside of you in order to fulfill that role that you were going for. Maybe you need more character development. Maybe you need to work on yourself a little bit better. So I think, having this kind of mentality can allow people to go throughout life in a more of a like acceptance and surrender type of way. And not surrender like lay down, but surrender as in understanding and trusting that the world and the universe, God, is working for you on your behalf all the time, even if it happens to be in the form of a hard lesson learned. Because once you learn one of those really hard lessons, you don't have to repeat it again. Some of us do, but that's okay.
Exactly. You said something there, two things that resonate with me in terms of that. And that's, here in Canada right now, most individuals who are not getting that shot are losing their jobs right now. We can't go to a restaurant, any venue at all. Actually, technically, I'm not supposed to have people over my house that aren't vaccinated. The list goes on and on. It's absolutely ludicrous. And with the positions, I have people coming to me left, right, and center, broken down, like you would well, I'm sure you can imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
People who invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into their career, going to school, 10 years or just started. And that's exactly it. How you just said, sometimes it's, we have these steps we can see from in our head that we've built on this life we want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe has this path. And often the first 1, 2, 3, 4 steps that you can see with the universal path look like shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you take them and it's going to bring you around to something even more beautiful than ever before. And what you're saying, there's something I wrote a Twitter post that came to me one time not long ago. And it's something I realized, that God has given me everything I've asked for when I've shown him I'm ready. The good and the bad. The good and the bad. And here I am, we're coming in the winter months here, and it gets to about minus 50 with the wind chill here in the prairies.
Oh my gosh, I cannot even imagine.
It's not very nice. I'm in one of the coldest places in the world, and I need to open up a space for this community. And I have a fairly small home where I'm at right now, and I wasn't planning on buying another home anytime soon. Before, now I am. And I said, okay, well, let's find a space. Let's find a space we can open up, a warehouse. I'll get a community center, whatever it is, rent it, purchase it, whatever we have to do. And turns out there's nothing really available. And this is what I prayed on it, meditated on it. This is like, okay, go get a space next year, try to find a ranch and build a campground, a hobby farm, a wellness center. This is the path I'm looking at taking. I should say. This is what's shown to me. Intuitively, I feel this way. So try to find a space. I have conversations with leasers and say, hey, I'm Shaun Zimmer. Oh yeah, we know who you are. All whatnot. And I need this space, and I need it in terms of when you have the police come around to you and say, hey, Shaun's got $100,000 in tickets for not following public health orders. It needs to be, well, Shaun's bills are paid. That's between you and him. That's not in my contract. Mm-hmm. And I've had no luck with finding that. Mm. So instead of getting stuck on that idea that I wanted, I again prayed on it, and God said, well, open up your home. Small home, get rid of your dining room table, put a banquet table down the center, you got your gym downstairs. And I look at that, it resonates in terms with that quote, God has given me everything when I'm showing I'm ready. That larger space will come when I'm showing I'm ready. We can facilitate this. We just had our last bi-weekly Freedom Fire this last Saturday, Halloween party. Mm-hmm. And somebody came in and the toilet flooded and they just left it. Oh. And it went about 30 feet, maybe even 35 feet, 40 feet away from the bathroom, all over the hardwood. Somebody came in and luckily saw it, told me, and I wiped it all up. My hardwood's all destroyed. Damn. And people were like, how are you just staying so cool about that? And again, well, here I am talking about doing a campground, building a school, building all these things. I'm gonna have to deal with a lot of shit with that.
Literally, yeah.
So here's a little bit of shit I gotta show that I can deal with.
Right? Wow, no kidding.
Everything when I show I'm ready. So that's how I live my life in terms of that, and just letting go of it. Whatever, it's just hardwood. It'll come and go. It's all good.
Yeah, I think that's such an incredible point, because I always say, people have these goals for the more. They want, the bigger house or the bigger property or the next thing. And it's like, okay, well, let's check out the thing that you currently have, and how are you operating within that? How are you treating that? How are you taking care of that, right? Because why would, even for example, you're a father, right? So imagine a father. Why would a father give his daughter a brand new something if she's treating the current thing that she has horribly, right? Or not taking care of it. So I think it's really important to love and care for what you have. Even the times I've had the shittiest car in the world or something, I always was so thankful for it, and I loved it, right? My last car, you couldn't control any of the middle console stuff. It was actually an auto, which was such a blessing, because the AC would go on auto. So it would always be cold, which was great. I love that. But that didn't work. All these other things were falling off. The passenger window, you couldn't control it from the passenger. It would just automatically go all the way down. So there's all these issues, and I'm like, I love this car. I think it's great. And I would take care of it, right? Because in my head, I'm imagining okay, if I ever do get that, dream toy car that I'd love to have one day, I want to treat this car the same, because how you do the small things and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I totally resonate with what you're saying there. And I do think it's such an important, life lesson. Ask yourself, how am I treating the things that I already have, including, and most importantly, the friendships, the relationships, the family, right? If you want to create incredible things in your life, incredible relationships, what are you doing first to be that incredible person in that relationship? So yeah, I just think it's important to always work on yourself. And, you know, my brand Evolve with Emily is all about evolving into that next best version of yourself, even if it's just 1% every single day. So everything that you represent and that you're teaching and that you do just fully aligns with me and the audience that listens here. So before, you know, we're coming near towards, you know, the last half of the show or so. But I kind of want to ask a few personal development questions since you've done so much. You mentioned one book already, but could you mention another book or two that you love that you would recommend for people?
Yeah, absolutely. The first book I recommend everybody is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Mm-hmm. And I suggest reading it in 1 or 2 sittings. It's a very short read, and to read it every 3 months. Even with that, you know, before getting off on that, one important thing to remember, our mind is, you know, training our mind is just like training our body. You want to build muscle. Do you just go and eat the right food and hit the gym one day, or do you have to consistently and repetition? You want to fat, you have to do it, the work consistently, repetition. Same thing with your mind. You have to come back and do it in repetition. You know, our subconscious, 95% of our brain is automatic programming based on what we've done in repetition and how we live life. So if you want to program your mind, you need to do things in repetition. So Don Miguel Ruiz, I love his 4 Agreement book as well. The Mastery of Love, that's a really beautiful one by him. The Way of the Superior Man, The Magic of Thinking Big, and Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That's a interesting one not many people are aware of. There's so many books I could just keep bringing off, but those would be some first steps in that I would suggest going for sure.
How about a podcast? Do you have a podcast that you enjoy listening to?
MFCEO Project.
Yeah.
MFC. You know what's funny with Andy? Remember the first time I came across Andy's podcast about 3 years ago? My man Coney Grant Adam was suggesting him, and I put it on. I fucking hated him within like a minute. I'm like, fuck this egotistical asshole. And later I realized that was because I still hadn't burnt my ego enough. You know, everything's a projection in life, right? Whatever, good or whatever we're doing is a projection based on who I am, right? Then for some reason, I was drawn back to him, and I gave him a chance. And I listened to one. I realized, no, man, this guy really cares. He just fluff around, very much like me. So I remember I listened to all 300 episodes of that in like a month or two. I did 75 Hard right away, and so that is one I suggest for sure.
Tell me a little bit about 75 Hard. What was your experience with that?
75 Hard, absolutely amazing. Life-changing program. I do it all the time. I'm starting again either tomorrow or the next day. I'm not too sure. See how my schedule's looking here. Definitely a program I suggest to everybody. The first time I did it, I went pretty relaxed on the diet. I just did no deep fried food and no sugar. So actually when I hit day 75, I had a dream that I looked at my phone. Andy Frisilla was calling me, and we had a conversation. He's like, so, you know, you didn't really do it right.
No shit. That's awesome.
Yeah. So ever since then, I've been doing it like super strict, the diet. Like I have to take my morning vitamins, my evening vitamins. If I miss them, that's a fail. Like really, really, really down to the crunch on it. But that is a program I suggest to everybody. And you know, so much controversy on it from people who just don't want to commit. Like, fuck, you know, people talk, that's too much water. Well, for 75 days, it's really not too much water, but it's for 75 days. Oh, it's too strict. You're going to have things like going to mess with your head for 75 days. It's 75 days. It's not 5 years, right? Definitely the mental toughness that developed was massive. The confidence that developed was massive from doing the things that I do, no compromise on it. Huge. Absolutely.
Andy refers to the little bitch voice inside of your head, right? Did you notice any change in that in the 75 Hard program?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is one of my favorite things. It's actually one of my courses, one of my days, and one of the courses I teach. And I changed it to follow suit with Andy, the little bitch and boss voice. I used to have it labeled. That's different. Awesome. I say it at camp all the time when people are doing it, because boot camp's not easy. I put them through the ringer, and I tell them that. I yell it with a big ass speaker. I'm like, take that little bitch voice, slap it around, tie it up, shove it in the back, and empower your boss voice to grab the fucking wheel and get this shit done. Damn absolutely right. Massive difference in it. And just realizing it, you know, being more aware of it and utilizing it as a tool. When the voice speaks up, that is a good reminder to do exactly the opposite of saying.
You know, I think it's really important to commit to something that is incredibly difficult, something so difficult that it makes you want to quit. Because when you do that, then you have the opportunity to overcome something that you didn't think that you could do. But you won't ever get there if you never commit. So what I find is that the people who commit to something like 75 hard or whatever it is that they end up doing, that commitment is what ends up giving them this strength, right? Because after you've overcome so many moments where you feel like you couldn't, you feel like you didn't want to do it for whatever reason, or you weren't strong enough, when you overcome it, the strength that you get, like I always refer to it as a superpower. So I'm in bodybuilding. I've done 20 shows now. I'm an IFBB pro. And I will tell you what, when I'm on prep, I feel like a freaking superhuman, you know, because it's the most intense version of myself. And I love that part of me. And I think it's important for people to experience this for themselves, because there are some people listening that think that that's just not who they are. And the truth is they haven't had a space to be able to practice these incredible, strong character building, you know, things, right? It's very character building to practice discipline. A lot of people think they aren't disciplined. It requires practice. You're going to have to do it over and over again. I know for myself, you know, when I previously committed to something like a prep, I remember there was 1 week in particular where all of a sudden I went from training and doing cardio and dieting how I pleased to now on a very strict regimen. And all of a sudden I saw so clearly how loud that little bitch voice was inside. And I was like offended, because previously I felt like I'd been so strong. And when I heard the voice so many times, I was like, I've become so weak. Not today, Satan, you know? And then I like told it to shut up. You know, I always say like, use the words that will ignite the action that you desire in yourself, and everybody's different. But for me, it's not too nice. Like for me, it's like, shut the fuck up. And I go, okay. And then I just go to work, you know? Yeah. And I think it's important to, like I said, just have those moments, because overcoming, it's electrifying to me at this point. It's one of the things that I look forward to in every aspect of my life.
Oh, it is. And like you said, that superpower, I feel like when I hit past the day 40 mark with 75 hard, I really feel that kick in. And I've hit that, I passed that day 40 mark probably 50. I failed it quite a bit. You know, I remember the first time I failed with a progress picture fairly far, like day 40. And I announced it. I always announce my failures. And so many people didn't get it. You know, they're like, what the fuck? The picture, just keep going. I'm like, you don't get it. You know, it's all about doing what you said you're going to do. Right. In terms of the progress picture, I really look at that in relation, and I think Andy described in his book a little bit in terms of, you know, it's the little things that add up in life, the little tasks that add up to big differences. And even when you're doing something you absolutely love, there's going to be some mundane tasks you have to do every day that you don't want to do, that seem not very important, but they really add up to quite a bit. So you got to show up and actually.
I have to tell you, I started to do 75 hard, and I was going to tell everyone on day 75 that I had done it. And day 67, I flew to First Form HQ, and I was stoked because I was there. I was doing 75 hard, second time being there while on it, and no one knew. And I was just drawing, you know, inspiration from them. And I could list off all the excuses, but I missed the progress photo on day 67. And I literally I almost threw up. I was so upset. And like, because I do preps and stuff, it was kind of the only window of time that I had in between my preps to be able to do it. I was so mad, but you know, you learn a lot. And like you said, like it really is like the consistent small things. And if you'll do those consistent small things well, you can be successful. And if you drop the ball, you're going to learn, you're going to feel it.
Yeah. It taught me a lot. You know, I've expressed my gratitude to Andy so much on it. Same with my daughter. She watches me do it, and it has such an impact on her. Last year, I hit day 70, and I never look at Facebook at all, ever. I really look at social media. I post, and that's about it. Whatever the first picture is, I like it, and that's it. I try not to put my time there. And for some reason, a comment came up on the Facebook group for 75 Hard asking if carbonated water, just plain nothing else, carbonated water, counted as the gallon. And I instantly said yes, because I was filling my gallon jug, and I would use it to fill my smoothies and fill everything. And then right after I said it, I'm like, wait a second. I was like, well, one of the rules is if you have to question it, you got to go with the harder route. And day 70, and I was just like, I haven't, and I was trying to do it as hard as you possibly could, right? If I missed a vitamin, fail, I have to have exact like 6 cups of veggies every meal, down like exact percentages of my macros, everything. And that was a big wake up call actually on how much my professionalism has gone in my way in my life. It's been useful in different terms, but gone my way, because really I failed myself on day 70. I didn't want to give myself the 5. I was like, no, I'm going to stop and start over. And even Andy kind of shook his head at me, I think, when he was asking, he said, what happened? And then one time too, with the reading, you know, I was kind of just flipping through the reading really quick on like day 50. And then the next day I was like, I didn't really absorb that. I didn't actually be in it. So I started over. Good things, but as well, when I did the water, really, I felt like I was doing it properly. So I wasn't cheating. I really should have just went through with it and gave myself that. And then the next time took it off. So it's definitely given me a lot. I 10 out of 10 recommend it to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's kind of what you were mentioning, how you weren't intentionally doing anything wrong. You think about this in terms of personal development, right? Whenever people start to kind of wake up to their patterns and their habits and their beliefs, you know, sometimes they can feel shame or feel guilt for the things that they were unconscious to. But we have to realize is if it's in the unconscious, you're only responsible for what you've come into truth and into knowing for. So I think it's important for everyone to kind of, you know, extend some self-love and compassion to themselves as they become aware to these sometimes kind of ugly things about themselves, right? Like when you're doing personal development, you're understanding now how when you thought you were in the right about all these things and you were nice and justified, you actually were not, right? And that a lot of the things that have transpired in your life, you actually do have some responsibility in. So you kind of mentioned something earlier about how you don't spend too much time on social media. And I wanted to share a quote that you had on your Instagram. It said, you know, don't fill your heart with poison. The things you're consuming are what's manifesting in your life. And it was a post about, you know, social media and Netflix. So just tell me your stance on that and, you know, how you kind of go about that.
Yeah, it's, again, you know, if you look at the cliche saying, you know, you're an average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, whether you want to admit it or not. Just growing up all the time, never wanted to admit it. And the same goes with, you know, not just people, but what you're surrounding yourself with. Are you reading books that are going to improve your mind? Or are you watching Netflix all day? Are you out engaging in the wilderness, getting out and exercising? Or are you sitting there watching pornography and masturbating all day?
That's
you know,
real.
are you sitting repetitive stuff on social media, or are you taking what you need that's useful and then taking action with it and getting out there, right? Success is on me too, right? And just take all the information and not execute with it. So really, what you're surrounding yourself with, weed the garden in terms of the people, the events, the energies, the conversation with yourself, everything that you can possibly do, the way the atmosphere around you, the way you keep your house, everything.
I love that I love that you use the example, weed the garden, because I think there's a lot of people that maybe they find themselves in a situation where they're looking around at their life. They're looking around at that garden and they don't like anything they see in that garden. And they think that it means that their life needs to end. And it's not true. What that message actually means is, hey, you need to weed the weeds out of your garden and you need to plant new seeds and allow new beautiful things to grow, which is going to take time. You don't take out your weeds and put in new plants right away. That seed has to grow, it has to be nurtured, it has to be developed, it needs the right sunlight, the right environment, you know? So you have to make sure that as you're looking around at your life, you take that next step of taking out those things that you know are poisonous to your mind, to your heart, to your soul, which is difficult because in this day and age, you know, everything that I feel like is promoted is kind of like do whatever you want, whenever you want, enjoy everything as much as you want. And the truth is, I just don't think that that's always the best thing to do, right? So you have to ask yourself, what is this thing doing to my heart? What is it doing to my soul? Is it making me a better version of myself, more loving and more compassionate and more open and more giving? Or is it actually doing the opposite, which I think a lot of those negative things that you had mentioned can have just huge impacts on our hearts and on our souls. And it's our responsibility to be that best version of ourselves. Because, you know, you working on yourself, like you in particular, look what it's done for the community, for Canada, for not even just Canada. You're on social media. So world, like, hello, I know about you and I'm in Texas now, you know, like you've impacted the world by first working on yourself. And so I think that's incredibly important. One thing I wanted to ask is you have spoken before about essentially not caring about what other people think, right? You mentioned don't change so people will like you, be yourself and the right people will love you. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know, you know, I've struggled with it in the past being on social media. And I think a lot of people struggle with having people that literally hate them, right? So how are you so strong in being who you are and not allowing the opinion of others to get you down, even in those quiet moments?
Yeah, absolutely. That first came from a meme with my daughter that I made. It was awesome. I was wearing some heart glasses and she had her camel ones on. I looked like an idiot. And, you know, you said something before that lines up with this, and it was making me think on how I think, you know, don't judge yourself based on others and how others are doing. Judge yourself based on what you've been showing and what you know you're capable of, what God, if you want to look at it in that manner. And in terms of doing so, when you know you're giving it your all, you know who you are down deep. Other people have a perceived value on who you are based on probably one side of you that they've seen.
Or 30 seconds.
Yeah, like me as the meme dad, people used to call me. You know, I stopped making, don't move away from that, but that people would see that and be like, oh, you know, like there's one, I took it off because of all the bullshit these days with guys being too feminine, but there's one where I was in a fairy tutu and wings with my daughter doing a tea party. I took it off.
Awesome.
Much of that shit these days, but
right.
That, you know, people would see that and be like, oh, so heartfelt, but then they come and hear me swearing and hear how direct I am and then hate me because they built this character on who they think I am. And I know who I am deep down. You know who you are deep down. You know where you're falling short. You know where you're executing. And you judge yourself based off of that, what you know you're capable of and what you've been showing. And it's hard for people to do these days. Social media has made that so difficult. You have so many people out there pretending to be someone they aren't, so people will like a version of them they aren't. And that is such a psychological fuck. It is one of the biggest issues with one of the largest issues I think with mental health right now. And so I really try to get people to move away from that. You know, even people I meet, you know, I haven't moved away from what I'm doing here, but I put a lot of time into trying to organize protests here in Winnipeg. Very broken with them, and everybody's been really crying like, why is Winnipeg so shitty, so tough, like other places in Canada are doing quite well. So I assessed it. I was like, all right, well, intuitively I feel like this is something that I should be going towards and helping. And doing so, I discovered, well, you have a lot of people swinging the pendulum too far. They're getting up there and talking about everybody's gonna die, all this kind of stuff, everything. So I've started getting in and developing these marches and bringing the people together. And in doing so, I've had a lot of people come up to me and express how surprised they are by who I am based on perception of me online. Because I am who I am online. I'm not putting on a character at all, but you only see typically one side of me, maybe two or three sides. You don't see everything. So with that being said, it's just a practice inside knowing from deep down where you're coming from. Know where you're coming from, know who you are, and forget about all the other bullshit. You know, people are often going to project different insecurities they have from within themselves or they've had around them. People have done something to them and they're going to judge based off of it. So just know who you are.
Yeah, I think that's incredible advice. And to add off of that, like you're saying, just having compassion that those people that are lashing out at you, they're lashing out at you because of something that is inside of them, maybe something that happened to them, right? And it's not to give them like a free ticket, but it is to allow you some peace and some freedom from their judgment. I always say, like, make sure to take that constructive criticism from people who share similar core values as you and who also have a life that you would desire to have or that you would, you know, be proud of, because I never take advice from somebody that doesn't live, walk, breathe how I would like to, right? So it's important to remember that. Okay, tell me a little bit about these protests that you're doing. I've been seeing a few posts on it and you have been really vocal about who these protests are for. Because like you said, some people could have a perception that it's only for people that think X way. But what I'm actually seeing is that it's not that way at all, that you're actually providing a really positive environment. So who are these protests for and what is it that you are promoting? What is your message when you're there?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for everybody to have the freedom of choice right now, or forever freedom, standing to have sovereignty over your body and not being coerced. One of the biggest things that we're having is coercion everywhere. People are being pushed out of their jobs, so many fear tactics. You know, you got your businesses shut down, everybody's broke. Now you can't do this, you can't do that. Now your family members are looking bad at you for having a different view. Oh, you're broke. Well, here's a lottery you could possibly win. All these different things that we know are wrong. So them. So removing that and having it freedom of choice. Hey, you want to get a vaccine, go get a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. You want to wear a mask, you don't. And that is often a dip. Doesn't come easy for me as well. If you look past on previous messages, I got really mad at people wearing masks, knowing that they shouldn't, because what you allow, you enable. But at the same time, we have to tone that down and bring it, again, swing that pendulum in the middle where we can unite everybody. And showing our first responders that we support them. And we know a lot of them are behind the scenes right now, still doing their part, even though that means they're wearing a mask and they don't want to, seeing things or being around things where they're not putting a stop to it because they're helping other people in a different way as a public servant. So having respect for them and showing, hey, we're here, even though we know you can't vocally say it right now because you have more needs, our first responders of all sorts. So that's where I put that time into, and it's been a challenge. And, here I am taking thousands of people marching down, leading in the front with thousands of people behind the busiest intersection in the city here. I think it's actually the biggest in North America. I don't want to be doing that. People are like, oh, you're that guy now. Excitement. I'm like, I don't want. Sorry about that. Just got another call. I want to be, that's not what I have interest in doing. But if that is what I'm getting called to do, and that's one thing that can have some impact, then let's do it, because our people are in need right now, and it's really scary what's coming to our children right now in Canada. If your child is at school and they're 12 or above, they can get that shot without you knowing.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And it's happening quite a bit. And they're coming for the 5 to 12-year-olds right away. It's already, they're planting the seed. They planted the seed a year ago. We'll see it probably in December. So having our children safe from that, having people not coerced, and knowing that if they decide they don't want that they're not feeling like they're a terrible person for such.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of the criticism too, just creating a place, and that's what I've done in the yard to start it, a safe place, again, as I was saying, to be yourself, and where you can be around people that when they're giving you criticism, it's in your best interest. Hate that to develop on your character instead of other people acting from their insecurities because they know they don't have it within them to stand up, and they feel they want to virtue signal and be a savior to the world, even though it's all wrong, and they know it's all wrong.
Right. I think the shift that's been happening is really beautiful to watch, where, like you said, people have kind of gone from the singular focused viewpoints on certain issues and said, okay, yeah, that is what I think, but hey, like, where do we actually come together here? And I think, like you mentioned, it's the unity of just choice. Why do you believe that it's important that we stand up for medical freedom right now?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, that's a slippery slope where we can go from there. If we don't stand for those freedoms, let's take a look at China, sort of say, with the social credit system, what's being done. You can be removed from having a way to feed your family if you decide not to. And where does it stop? And what is it they're putting, right? Why does everybody feel like they have your best interests at heart when we see the statistics, not on mainstream news, but we could sit there and talk for 5 hours going back and forth.
100%. Well, we're nearing the end here, but I do have one more question. You talk a lot about being a warrior. What does it mean to be a warrior, and why do you feel it's important that we build warriors in the society?
Well, we need, because what we're seeing right now, it's not the only reason. That's a big one. We can see that attack that's been, the last decade on masculinity, attack on, playing into oversensitivities, the people, small group that, and a lot of us think, we'll just give them that, it's okay. But really, what does that transpire into in the greater run? And being a warrior is somebody showing up that can evaluate themselves, can drop their ego and come from a place of selflessness and fight, put forward, take the sacrifices, or put the investments in, as I like to call it, into being somebody who can build what should be given to other people when others want to take it away, and then standing up for what's right, especially protecting and providing for our children, most definitely important.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your call to action to those that are listening that maybe they haven't spoken up, maybe they haven't, followed into that leadership position, but they're hearing your message, they're ignited by it, they feel motivated to take action in their way? What is your message to them for stepping into the role of standing up for themselves and their family?
I think the biggest thing I see where I'm at right now is building community, consistent, figuring a way to start bringing people together And in doing so, they'll be open and keep yourself available to join the other communities that are doing that as well. So you can grow that together, united. Not just, we have a lot of little cliques that are doing that, but then wanting to stay by themselves because maybe they don't agree with everything that this person stands for. But really, we're in a war right now, a psychological and spiritual war, and we need to connect together for that one mission. So build community, figure out ways to provide a safe place, whether you're doing fucking arts and crafts for the kids, stuff, whatever it might be, movie nights at your house, the park, going, whatever you can do around you to get people together, do that consistently and help give people strength and build honor. That's things I see to unite people together and take a stand.
Shaun, this has been such a good interview. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Emily. Thanks for having me. I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, of course. I love when I get to have conversations like this that build me up. Even just listening, I feel like I've learned a lot and have a lot of really good takeaways that I'll apply to my life. So I know the audience is just gaining a ton of value out of this right now. So for everyone listening, do us a favor. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to tag both myself and Shaun on your Instagram stories. You can share your favorite takeaways from the show. If you're watching on YouTube, what's up? Make sure to drop a comment, share the video, text it to a friend, share it on your stories, however it is that you'd like to get the word out. That's pretty much the only way that the show grows. So thank you guys if you choose to support. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next episode of Evolve with Emily.